tried to do one yesterday, one being a live, but it just kind of ended up floundering. I have been advised that I should start updating people as to what's going on more frequently. Um, Firstly, Twitter is no longer all that viable as a way to communicate. To be fair, it never really was for me. I don't think I ever, I mean, that doesn't matter, but I don't think I ever really got out from under a shadow ban or I just suck at it or whatever the deal is. But it was hard to get communication. It'd be nicer if things were, or more people were involved in these lives and stuff because you can directly communicate with people. It's great that way. But anyway, um, so progress on trying to, well, trying sounds like I'm doing this off the cuff. I should know better. But uh, this is the thing. People say, well, don't be scripted, but you should have notes. Well, if you get notes, you're kind of reading those. I can't, I'm not a newscaster. I can't read a teleprompter and seem authentic. If I don't have a teleprompter, I just sound like a babbling idiot unless I have somebody to conversate with. They don't have to necessarily be on the screen, although that, or in the live, even on the chat. I got to work on it. It's it's a skill. I didn't really thought shit. You turn on a microphone, you talk into it, but it's really a skill, and I ain't got it yet. But so anyway, proofreading several books um, for my RPG. I got now. This is the other thing. People said, "Be authentic. Talk. You don't have to talk about your product all the time. Make people know that you're a person too and share experiences and stuff like that." Well, unfortunately, right now I don't have very many experiences that aren't negative. I've, I feel a cold coming on. That's not good. Um, Also, I got a couple of parents. Most people do a couple. They're usually two, and they're almost 90, and it's getting bad, especially with my dad. Today he almost fell down twice. About a week ago, he fell down pretty badly. Um, he had a stroke, and it at first it seemed like he was recovering well, and then it started to deteriorate again. I'm not really sure why that happens. I'm no doctor. It's very disconcerting. So it you'll have to excuse me if sometimes you know his mobility is decreasing seemingly rapidly, and he's 6'4", fairly big dude. So if you got to move him around, you know. So anyway, I don't want to get too detailed. I'm going to nursing and all that, but the thing is that I hope everybody has some mercy and cut me slack. I had somebody that was kind enough to donate some money and wanted me to turn it around into a print and give him a product, and I feel bad. I almost feel like maybe I should return that money um, because this didn't happen right away like I expected it to. But the gods are against me or something. Um, this kind of came on quickly. Uh, he went from, well, he doesn't walk all that great to, are you going to be able to stand up in a matter of about a week or so? So it's tough, and my mom isn't doing cartwheels either. So um, it hasn't gotten to the home, put them into some sort of thing yet, but so there's all that. So uh, pardon me about that, but I am working on it. I just want to make sure that everything's arranged properly, everything is typeset correctly, and of course spelled correctly because I'm horrible at that. I mean, I've already proofread it a couple of times, but I want to be uh, sure because That would be me. I've gone through posts after post going, yeah, okay, that's right. And then you go back and you read it and you go, I still fucked it up. I was talking about domain play and I used spell checker and I I don't know why it slipped right past me, but it was writing out domina. So that was cute. Like the dominatrix. Whoopsh. Oh, hey, man. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel bad. So I don't know. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any. I thought, oh, free and clear. Let's get going. All right. Everybody's helping out. And this is great. And then I'm basket catching my old man in the parking lot because he can't get his left leg to work right anymore. So, um, I, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not the only one who has problems. I know. Just listening to some guy talk about his wife, year and a half of fighting cancer, and he said, man, he did everything, and really worked hard at it, and they really felt great that they had beat it or that it had gone away. Still came back. Shit, that's got to really be a punch in the nuts. So, but anyway, we're working on it. I'm trying to get my co-host up at her health isn't great, and she's closer to my age than my parents, but we're trying to do a character creation video. And we want to get a player's manual out, and then a dungeon master's next, and then go from there. So, and some other things going on. I'd like to do more videos. I'd like to find somebody who. Thing about doing videos is, if you're doing a co-host with a person, what do you get out of it? I can't pay you. I can't have a partner to share profits with. I'm not monetized and never will be because I say fuck sometimes and stuff like that. So unless you just like hanging out on a mic and talking, that's about the best I can get out of you. But it works better when I do have a co-host, I think. I tend to play off of people better. Yeah, man, it's the same thing. I stretched when I got out of bed. Oh, well, it's another morning. And I swear it felt like somebody had put a knife right in my shoulder blade, the angel bone. Oh, 2 days. 2 days of even taking a breath. And I thought all I did was get out of damn bed. Yep. So yeah, so we got that going on. I got, like I said, I want to get the player's manual. I think I think opening with the player's manual is the way to go, because you're going to have more players. Everybody knows how things work that way, and then doing the DM manual next is the way to go, I think. And I'd love to make some other stuff. I got a ton of other things I'd love to make too at some point. Hopefully we'll get around to it. Hopefully I'm not getting sick. I had to move all my stuff out of a storage locker to another one because the guy with the storage locker facility has sold it to a developer. So I had to move all that stuff. And then I find out, hey, when you get older, working like physical labor can reduce your immune system. So I think I got a cold in 70-degree weather. So, but I'm moving all my gear out there. I got a lot of old D&D stuff. That's another thing I'd like to do. Now that I've got it out from the archives, I'd like to show some of the stuff that I got from my uncle. I've got a lot of they're packages and inserts, and some are just pieces, but of products that were going to be made by TSR that for different reasons were canceled. I'd love to be able to get a hold of Zeb Cook, because I think he'd be the guy that'd be able to. Some of it I don't know about. So my uncle was supposed to tell me about this stuff, and the C word comes up again, cancer. He gave me that stuff when he was on his deathbed. And after 6 months of going into what's that word they call it when you get better for a while, and then it came back with a vengeance. And he never did get around to being able to tell me that he had more important things to do. I fully understand, but I thought Zeb might be able to help me out. But some of it might, some of it is, some of it's self-explanatory. Other pieces are you have to kind of get it. But I'd like to show that stuff and see if anybody's interested in it. So um, I got a lot of Star Wars stuff for sale, toys if anybody's a collector. 4 TIE fighters, the Millennium Falcon, all sorts of shit like that. AT-AT. So I'll get an eBay or something for that. But I'm trying to think of what else with the game. But yeah, I was thinking player, DMG, monster manual. There's a dungeon in wilderness. I thought I put that in one and just call it something like the adventurers manual or adventure set. That's about it. Trying to think what. Oh, the domain play stuff. Yeah. So the war game part of it. So anyway, but I've got it. I mean, what aside from putting in print, I can play it, and I'd like to have people show up at some point somewhere, get enough people to play online, and do a demo. I've got a demo called Zymax's Tower, and between 5 people would be great for that, and that kind of gives you a little bit of a. If I got more, it'd be even better. I'd love to put the domain play on top of it because it can do the domain play too, at least like a mini version of it. But that might be asking too much to get that many people playing. But it'd be fun. So, but it gives just give you it's not real long, just gives you an idea how to play, do a little kind of a mini scenario type of thing. But it's got a little war game portion of it too. So, but in lieu of my co-host, I'm trying to think of other subject matter to tackle as a solo, act or whatever on these streams. I got a lot of live content. The problem with the live stuff is some of it's like 5 hours long, and nobody's gonna when they see that, nobody's gonna see it, want to watch it. And I was gonna edit it, but and I still will, but it's got to be the last thing I do because it takes fucking forever. I'd like to do it with the co-host. I think it has a better effect for everybody to see her do it because it just shows how easy it is. It shows how intuitive it is. She's only played a couple of RPGs in her whole life, and but this will be the 3rd night in a row where she's given it a shot and hasn't been able to do it because of her health issues. So I won't try to. At that point, if she still can't do it, maybe she really needs to do some more things about her health, and I'll just lay off and go ahead and do it myself. But she's got some sort of wonder pill she thinks can make it all go away. Now it's not illegal. It's doctor prescribed, but apparently it'll give her a couple hour window to be able to maybe do it. So she's got what they call spinal stenosis, and she's got arthritis on top of it. So the poor thing lives in pain. But I expect to see her tonight, or hear from her, I should say more accurately, later on in the evening, because she works late on top. She's still got to work on top of all that shit. She's on the phone. So I expect to hear from her late tonight and maybe get it done overnight and get it out tomorrow. But if she still can't do it, then I'll do it tomorrow night after I move the rest of my shit out of the condemned storage thing or whatever. So, boy, I got a lot of it. I don't know if I can. I'll be stuffing that thing in there. It'll be so full I won't be able to close the door. But uh, but that's the plan. Tonight or tomorrow. So long, short answer. It'll either be her or me. Her tonight or me tomorrow. So, but I do a big. It's not super long, but it's it's not a mini character creation. God, my back. Sorry about the face close up, but I got a pillow for my back and it keeps riding up. Uh, I do a little bit more with character creation because I want to keep people away from ridiculously long backstories or overly involved backstories. So what I have is I have them roll one up. It's not. It's just a couple of things. So, um, and they can kind of expound out of that to a limit. Yeah, I turned it on yesterday, and I was just like, "Ooh." I didn't know what the hell to say. Um, I just Bill said that he had fallen asleep, and I thought, well, shit, I should have turned it on just to talk to people, and then nobody talked. So, um, but yeah, come on. I got the thing where I can send you the link, and then you can turn on your microphone and talk or whatever, like the panel on the news station. It'd be a little inset or that kind of thing. I can do that with like 10 people or whatever. I think this thing can handle 10. So it looked like CNN. But yeah, that'd be great. We have all that world creation stuff that we were doing too, and that was a lot of fun. On top of everything else, putting those worlds together. I wanted to do one for Halloween, but then she got this issue again. So poor thing. She hurt herself playing video games. She's got a bad neck, the spine way up at the base. The neck is bad, and they can do surgery. Two problems. If the time it takes to recover from it, she'll have no job. Because plus, if it goes wrong, she becomes paralyzed. So she's terrified to do it no matter what. So then she moves the mouse around playing Lotro and gets an injury, like a repetitive stress injury from playing Lotro. She goes, shit, I can't even have fun. I can't even relax. It wasn't like she was lifting weights. She was just killing orcs. But yeah, come on up. That'd be great. We can talk about whatever. I saw one guy talking about combat rounds and stuff like that. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. What the person said. Yeah, I thought that might be a subject. I'm struggling for things to talk about. Oh, there's one. There was one I saw where a guy was talking about record keeping, and I wanted to do that too. Though I don't know. So you wonder. People say, "Well, I want to hear interesting things. I want to hear people, give their opinions on certain mechanics and stuff like that." But sometimes I think people just want to hear their opinions validated. And if I start talking about how keeping records for arrows and stuff isn't that big of a deal, most people just go, I'm switching the channel. They don't want to hear that because they don't agree. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. Shit, it's a tally mark. Just make a notch. So I saw somebody McGowan was talking about that. And he did a big thread on it. I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in. So, but I've said that before, but in a big grouchy manner and shit like that. I got the Rumble too. I got different stuff on Rumble, and I tend to be a little bit more bitchy on Rumble because they won't get They won't ban you for saying bad words. So, uh, and then there's this Twitter thing. I don't. Some people go, it's not that big of a deal, but I don't. I don't want them using this kind of thing for AI. I don't want my face all over that or anything like that. And I don't want to see all the stuff that's going to come up from not being able to block. And they say, well, how do they put it? Well, they still won't be able to reply to you. I don't care. Now I have to see their shit. And if they're in the same thread with me, there's a lot of people that I have on block or have me on block that I see show up in the same thread. You can see that little thing says this person, this, that, and the other thing. I don't want to see all that. So I want to spend more time on this sort of thing. And you can put the micro blogging stuff on Google and all that too. So, but yeah, the guy was the thing with the combat was interesting. It wasn't about simplifying it or whatever. He just what did he say that you just got to make more rounds. One cycle shouldn't be as long. It should be a bunch of smaller cycles. Yeah, well, that's the thing about that argument that I find interesting is you've gone or the person or the concept more. I'll get the words out. The concept has gone full circle because back in the day, all the stuff that I'm always talking about, just play like it used to be. That's what we were doing. We were trying to achieve simultaneity because it seemed more realistic and it helped keep everybody engaged at the table. There was no Joe, you're up. When I started playing more modern games, people would wander off because, oh, well, there's 5 people ahead of me in line. It's going to take an hour to get through all that. So they'd get up and take a leak or they'd go wander around and look at my library or whatever that was. And he had to call them back. Hey, it's your turn. But if you got them all sitting at the table having to watch everything because what happens they can react to, that changes things. It's like, and it's all about the time scale. Instead of having a 10-minute time scale or something like that, you have like a 6-second time scale. And for a long time, people said, you don't need that. That's, for some reason, everybody got the idea that that wasn't a good thing. But now they've come back and realized that that is the way to do it. Because it keeps everybody looking at one another. I'm chasing them off. I had 2 and now I had 3 and now I've got 2. Oh, well. But yeah, so I like to address that. I thought I'd do a little talk on that sort of thing. Thought it'd be interesting to talk more about Tony Bath because there was some discussion about him. There's the thing about Braunstein. I wouldn't mind talking about that as long as it doesn't turn into a brawl or I have people threatening to sue me. But yeah, we can talk about that too. Because everybody's still trying to figure out what the hell does that even mean? Including me, because sometimes the definition means something different to somebody else. So that's about it. What else? I was trying to think of some other things that I saw today. I don't know. I think I've answered everybody's questions about the system. So I kind of got that covered. Got a few modules. Yeah, them browser people. And then Griff made it, I think, worse by, talking about lawsuits and stuff. I don't really get it. like it's a hard thing to do to go after somebody, and I don't know. I mean, I've Wesley doesn't wouldn't be able to pick me out of a lineup, but we've met and I've I've been at a game table with him in the past. But so to go after somebody who's got this, oh, he helped start it type of reputation, you're not going to make a lot of friends by doing it. But the fact is, and it's not really going after Wesley. He did what he did, and it's fine. But I'm fairly certain that that's not the first time somebody had done something like that, especially in the military. Now, finding verifiable, documented proof of that is a little hard. It shouldn't be. 15 years ago, it'd probably be easier to do, but now it's hard to find. But I'd like to, because that whole thing is getting a little nutso. I watched just a little bit of it, and then I went off to make some my own stuff and things like that. But I didn't see any of the Braunstein. I saw um, some of the Kuntz. What was it? The name of his thing? Jesus, old man. The Wild Blue Yonder, whatever. I watched a little bit of that. Um, so, uh, but I didn't watch the Braunstein. But Braunstein just means it's that all your well, not all, but a lot of your NPCs are just people, human beings playing the NPCs. And of course, people say, well, that means they're not an NPC. Well, fair enough. See, so that jargon gets hard to parse through. But what it is that, uh, and the Broser guys have talked about this before. As much as I hate those guys, some of the stuff they do is right. And they brought it up before. They go, you have people come in and play uh, the main NPC, the main antagonist to the players, in the game, stuff like that. And that's kind of what was going on with the Wesley thing. But I don't believe it was the first time that was done. Yeah, I watched. The only reason I watched it, well, not the only reason. I mean, I was interested. I wish I could have gone, but I wasn't going to take a bus there. The only option I had to get there was taking a bus, and there's very little in this world that would be worth a 6-hour bus ride to me, as much as I love it. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, I watched it because Rob said that, or no, Griff said that and I hate to be like the 90210 thing, but Griff said, well, one of the Broser people are coming to ArnieCon and they're going to play in the Coots thing. So I have a guy playing Greyhawk with me on Sundays who went to the Coots thing. And I wanted to know if it was the same guy because I want to know if I had one in my player party. So it wasn't, but I don't think. Um, so I watched it for a while, see if I could figure it out. But but yeah, I could talk a little bit about Bronstein as far as I know it. Uh, I don't. It doesn't. The hullabaloo over it is, and what it is like this. It's there was stuff like that in the military. I mean, I know Wesley's older and all that, but there was guys at Fort Polk that were doing that kind of shit, where they would have a war game maneuvers, full scale maneuvers, and then the post would have civilian people on post come and pretend to be protesters or stuff like that. Yeah, the I t- we would take buses, but when I was on leave, spent a lot of time on buses going back to base after coming home from leave, and they were nice buses, at least the ones we had, chartered through the military at the time. But I went to the Greyhound station in my local area, and their bus was like fucking decades old, and it was very small, very dirty, and very smelly. And the people that were sitting on it were not of the highest character. So the ride I did take was extended by about an hour and a half because there was a sexual assault on the bus. So I didn't want to do that anymore. It was everybody on that bus was a weirdo, and I was, and 6 hours, it goes like a snail's pace, and it stops at every one horse town on the way. Rob told me Mike Carr was going to give me a ride, and then somebody said Mike Carr didn't want to give some stranger a ride, and I was like, oh well, thanks, Mike. So I I don't know, but I could have gone with. I mean, Mike doesn't live that far from me, so I could have gone up there and hitched a ride with him, but apparently he wasn't going to do it. So I wish that's the only time I wish I had a car was to go do that. So, but I hopefully if things get better for me, financially and all that, next summer I'll definitely go to the one in Lake Geneva because I don't need a bus that I can. Yeah, and this one wasn't it. It wasn't just that it was low quality. It was old. Like if you look at a Greyhound bus from 1974 versus the modern coach bus, it's like the Greyhound is just it's like a school bus with a better or different frame on it or body on it. It was really small, and I got a fucking stranger up against me. Ugh. Yeah, well, I I couldn't venture to. It kind of sounded like maybe Rob had spoken out of turn and just assumed um, that Mike would give a ride. So it was kind of a confusing deal. Griff was kind of helpful. He put out the word. I talked to Rex for a while about it, and Rex was going to do it, but he says, I've got extra days because I'm coming out to help, and I didn't want to spend the money to stay at some motel because he was staying at Griff's house or something like that. Um, so, and even at that, it was still out of Rex's way because I'm about 30 minutes north of Milwaukee, and he doesn't even have to really. He went into Milwaukee for a while, but that was it. So, so he just missed me, but better like next time. Yeah, Mike is Mike. I don't have anything bad or anything like that so much, but I played a lot of games with Mike in his group at Gen Con. He's all right. So you get with some of these guys, and they're not always loaded with the social graces. Just put it to you that way. So, but he's okay. Costellin or Costigan, I should say. He was another one that was kind of a bitchy old dude, and well, old comparative to me at least at the time. So I don't want to talk too bad about people that are still alive, or I might hear me, or not that I would talk bad about the dead, but sometimes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was staying with somebody, and he says, "I can't invite you into somebody else's home, so you'd have to stay there for a couple of days." But he was going to split a room with me and all that stuff, and that would have been fine. But he didn't know where I was. He goes, "Well, where are you?" And I says, "I'm north Milwaukee by this much." He goes, "Oh, that really is." So I saw him taking pictures. It looked like he was staying Well, I saw him taking pictures at what they call Mars Cheese Castle, which is about 45 minutes away from me if there's no traffic on the road. About an hour and a half if there is. So I used to live down that way where he was, or at least the pictures he sent. So, but I think he was coming out of Lake Geneva or something like that. So, it's too bad. I just couldn't get anybody coming. I'm out of the way, as far as main thoroughfares to major cities and stuff like that. I'm out in the sticks. So it was a lot funner when it was Gen Con. Gen Con, I could get in a car at 6:37 in the morning and shoot down into downtown Milwaukee and be at Gen Con in 15 minutes. So that was fun. Those were the days. I used to love to go to Gen Con. But, oh well. So yeah, I was going to talk about Braunstein. I was trying to talk about domain play a couple of times. I did a little bit with the co-host on that. I think we recorded it. I don't know if I liked the way it came out. That's the other thing. I'm kind of a perfectionist. So it ends up taking longer because every little thing has to be right. But we did talk about it a little bit. I know what it was. She wasn't really grasping the concept fully. So we decided we were going to do it again when she got it right. But that's kind of why I have her, because she's very new. And so the whole point is, here's a concept. Here's a rules concept. If she can grasp it, not that she's stupid or anything, but if a noob that's only played 2 RPGs in their whole life can understand the rules, then I don't have to listen to anybody complain about that being complicated. Unfortunately, the domain rules weren't that. So she was confused as to what they were. So I thought, I'll try it again and see if I can present them in a way that gets her to understand it better. Or just get somebody with a little bit more experience. So, but I wanted to show that I had a map and everything with a bunch of different countries, and I was going to show how to set up a whole domain style play with it, things like that. Kind of a war game on top of the RPG type of thing. So I might do it with Star Wars instead, because I've got it all set up to do. So, yeah, you're way out there. What was it? West side? Is that the west side of Washington State you're at? I never got out to that neck of the woods. They had talked about putting me in. What's the fort out there? Fort Lewis, Washington. There was talk about putting me out there when I was in the Army, but he got sidetracked because of other issues. Yeah, I don't. It seemed like in that case it was a case of communication. Maybe she goes, "I thought you were talking about something else." So I said, "Well, uh, okay, we'll try it again." But I might do the Star Wars thing. It might have been that too. It might have been she didn't have a good frame of reference, because she's only her first thing was playing Star Wars with me. Oh, okay. So yeah, right. Southeast. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, well, maybe if I'll do it with Star Wars, that would make more sense. She goes, "No, I don't know anything about the weapons and all that." And I said, "That shit don't matter. You know the basics. You don't need to know all that." So thought maybe I'd go back and do it with Star Wars. We played it. I says, "Here's the funny thing. You played Domain. She was an RPG player. We played Star Wars West End games, and for a while I had the domain play going on, but she wasn't part of that. She was just doing the RPG stuff. I had a bunch of other people, including some brosers, doing the domain thing, and that was fun, and they were good at it. And then we on Twitter we started talking about. I started making fun of Gold for XP. I never liked Gold for XP. Well, when I started telling these guys that, they started swearing at me and getting all silly and weird and all that. So they stopped playing the Star Wars game. Some of them left. One guy didn't, but he was just he just stayed so he could argue with me about Gold for XP more. So I said, I don't want you to play if you're going to just argue with me on it. But we were playing that domain play with that game. I love that game. I wish I could get more people to play it. It was fun. We were playing that every week. Star Wars. That was some of the. I have that some of it recorded, but I don't think I have very good parts recorded. But that was a fun game because it was adult and everybody was laid back and they didn't care that we were playing with, drug running slaver huts and nudie bars filled with naked alien chicks and shit like that. It was great. So, one player put a bet on a contest, a jerky contest, and it was really raw, but it was fun. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But the Twi'leks, the ones that have the tentacles coming out of their head, the thick tentacles, they were in the Return of the Jedi, the green one that was dancing for Jabba. Um, there was a lot of them end up being dancers or hookers or whatever because of anyway stories. But we were playing that, and the huts, like I said, the huts were into it. It was Miami Vice and Star Wars, a lot of it, which was fun. So yeah, the old. Well, here's the funny thing. I went to school with Scott Palter, that was the CEO for West End Games for a lot of years, and he's kind of the one that got blamed for fucking up that company, which isn't. It's a little harsh because there was more to it than that, but um, and he was really resentful about it, understandably so. But he certainly did. He made some bad mistakes. But anyway, I went to school with him, so I talked to him all the way up till he passed away from some obscure disease that he contracted, but not COVID, but something else. Anyway, and I said, so what's the deal with the rights and all that? I said, I still want to play these games. I wouldn't mind making modules for these games. And he goes, you know, fuck all those guys. There's nothing. You'll never get that out of there. It's gone. If you've got them, you can do what you want with them. Do you have PDF? And I told him, I said, well, I got PDFs, but I don't want to get in trouble. He goes, he actually wrote me a permission slip in Yahoo Mail. And he said, if anybody gives you heat about having that stuff or using it, fuck them. Just, here you go. So now somebody does own it. After he passed away, I think all that stuff defaulted back to the original writers. So Bill Smith and Costigan and those guys got rights to what they wrote. So they kind of got together, and there's a West End Games in some minor fashion on the internet, but it doesn't matter. Everybody uses the PDFs of the thing. There's two websites that just openly go, here's all the West End game stuff. And they've been doing that for one of them for about 15 years. And there's nobody around to sue them, so they just keep on doing it. So you can always get a hold of the books online. to check it out. The great thing about West End Games, in my opinion, is that it's one of the few uh, products uh, from the Lucas era where Lucas let them look at everything he did, including the notes and everything pre-production of the original Star Wars. So they were looking at the raw, undistilled, original um, storyline because it modified. He started trying to. I don't want to get into too long of a thing, but Lucas tried to make the movie in '72 and '73, and there's a whole deal. And then he came back in '77. It's a long story. It wasn't just, hey, I got a bunch of money and now I can make it in a year and a half and it'll be over. It went on forever. So uh, West End Games has got material that is just excellent, and some of it's a little contradictory, but that's typical. So, but it's the best one. And a lot of people say it's one of the better systems. It's a point by dice pool system, which I normally don't care for, but it was Star Wars, and I'm a fanatic for Star Wars, so I love playing that game. It's real easy, real simple to play, and but I just can't get any people to do it. They're either I don't have the time, or Disney ruined it all, and I don't want to play it anymore because Disney makes gay lightsaber stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not. Why can't we play anyway? What does that have to do with 1977 or 1983? Still cool shit. So I'd love to play that. But anyway, I thought that would be an easy one to do uh, for the domain. Um, the ships and stuff are kind of easy, but anything. Hell, I could do BattleTech, Lord of the Rings, whatever. Anything where there's some war and stuff like that, and show how the domain stuff works. So that's the neat thing about the Paracosmic is it just I wanted it to be able to do everything, not just fantasy. I wanted to do horror and Western or anything like that. So we could try it. Trying to think of what else there is to it. I pretty much, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, some of the stuff that I did for mine, I did raw. Like if I saw it even on like at Disney and I thought it was cool, like there's a few like I didn't like the stories. And I don't do any of the stuff after Return of the Jedi, but there was a couple things in the Solo movie that I thought, well, that's kind of what I expected to see, for real Star Wars. So I took it, and I thought the Imperial traffic cop on a motorcycle was cool, so I took it. I always liked Chips. I thought Chips motorcycles were badass back in the '70s, so I took that. Little things like that. But otherwise, everything comes from West End Games. So, and I've got four or five campaigns for it that I've written out. Um, I'll never get people to play them all, but at least I got people to play this one, and it wasn't done, so people could jump in and play some more. But yeah, I love that one. I was trying to think what else. I think I mentioned the horror thing. I loved Boot Hill, so I can do that anytime. But it's really hard to get people to do that one. I don't. For some reason, it doesn't seem like some people can grasp just doing straight Western. Like, what's the point? It's like, why would I role play McClintock? The movie. Fair enough. BattleTech, Star Trek, all that sort of stuff. What I'd really like to do, if I got enough people to play Star Wars again, what I'd really like to do is, as much as I love West End Games, I love all their stuff. I think there was a great company. I can't think of anything they made that was a miss, but I'm sure it's out there, but I'd like to play these genres with my new system with the paracosmic convergence, and because it can do it, and I think it would be neat to try it that way. Plus, then you don't have people. There's a lot of people who go, I don't want to use PDFs even if they're available, and I can't find it. I had one guy who was going to play, and he went and bought the original Star Wars book off of eBay. Shit, he paid $200 for that damn thing. So it's hard to find the stuff, and it's all collectible. So if you use my system, then it's just it doesn't cost. I mean, it's for sale, but it's $200. No, not for one book. Uh, so there's that. And then I want to make some war games too, but that'll be a long time down the road, I think. So, got other people in the chat? Feel free to speak up, say something, say hi, make questions, comments, anything like that. Any concepts you want to talk about? I just kind of do an open forum thing. Yeah, it's hard to get it. Yeah, yeah, they're well. There was guesstimations and see a lot of Star Wars stuff is contradictory for a lot of reasons. So for a while there was they're 10 kilometers long and all these crazy things. What they finally came up with is that a Star Destroyer is about 1,600 yards long, so pretty big, and that's what they settled on. So most games will have them at that size now, and but some older, um, when I say older, I mean like old novels. A lot of the Marvel comics from like the 70s and early 80s had all sorts of weird dimensions and stuff for these things. There's a whole website about it. There's a guy that was a big fan. Um, and there was also some sort of nuclear physicist or whatever. His name was Curtis Saxton, and his site still exists. It's called Star Wars Technical Commentary, and he gets down to brass tacks on that stuff and gives answers and tells you exactly how long they are versus everything and all sorts of other shit. Uh, in fact, he even theorizes as to how much energy it would take to generate a blast of laser from a Star Destroyer and all sorts of crazy science shit. But it's got some neat stuff on it beyond just the hardcore science. But yeah, they're big. 1,600. Forget how many people are on it. Thousands. So um, thousands of crew members, that sort of stuff. So um, really fun to play. God, I used to love to play Star Wars miniatures, the old stuff. There's the new stuff, and I don't like new, but there used to be a board game to do Star Wars dogfights, and there was actual miniature game for ground battles that was fun. So play those at Gen Con a couple of times. Those were fun. So, it's a fun game, even if you're not a big like my co-host Magenta. She's not a I mean, she likes Star Wars. She'll watch it and enjoy it, but she's really a big Star Trek person. But she was having fun with the Star Wars. She had uh, really got into her character and really enjoyed it. So I got a lot of recording of people laughing and having fun. I think somewhere. So got a lot of good compliments from people about being a DM. That made me feel good. I just came across one the other day again. From the other day, I just came across it where somebody was mentioning that. Well, yeah, we're not that far, and of course, some people say we are doing it. We're just not telling anybody, but yeah, yeah. I used to love. I played Starfleet battles too. I really like space warfare, just in general. You know, played Starfleet battles, played Babylon 5s, had a miniatures game that I played for a while. I never was a huge Babylon 5 fan, but I just liked space games, so I played the miniatures game for a while, um, a short while. It wasn't very popular commercially. And BattleTech, so not a lot of space combat in BattleTech, but still fun. But Star Wars, oh yeah. I went to the one of the best Gen Cons was the first year that they had the big ships. I'm walking around, and a buddy of mine comes running at me like a little kid. You know, we're adults. "Oh, bro, you got to see this shit. Jesus, look at this." So I go, "What are you guys?" We go over there, and there's a 4 foot long model Star Destroyer, and a bunch of. I mean, they look like the kind of things that were on a movie set. They were huge, and there was a Battlestar Galactica from the original series, and it was maybe about 3 feet long, and I mean they were gorgeous, and they were all done with plastic injection molded parts like a model and everything. Some of them were resin cast. Uh, so they had a bunch of Star Wars stuff, and I was just going gaga over this shit. And they played games with it. So they like that was a Nebulon B frigate. It was like that big, if I remember right, maybe a little bit bigger. And they were set on dowels, and the dowels had a stand, so they stood about about 3.5 feet high. And the Star Destroyer was so big, it had to have its had caster wheels on it so that you could move it around. And they played on this giant open floor at Gen Con with little Galoob micro machine X-Wings and TIE fighters, like miniatures that they bought at the store. They just gobbled up as much of them as they could and made this game out of it. Oh, I was in heaven. It was, and then they had Star Trek too. They had both the original series Constitution class, and then they had the Galaxy class uh, also, and a couple of Birds of Prey and some D7s and stuff like that. It was really cool. So those were my new best friends, and I played in every Star Wars game they ran. They were there for like 3 years, and then they stopped coming for some reason. I don't remember what it was. I think Lucas maybe, but I don't know. But I played in every event that they ran. Oh, that was so cool. Well, what was really what was better? It was like this. Star Wars had just come out, the movie. So, and as at that age, when I was, fairly young kid, but I went to the beginning of Star Wars. I went to the premiere. My uncle took me, and I couldn't digest enough of that. Okay, the movie was great. Now give me some like anything Star Wars. I tried to inhale, and then that came out, and it was trying to ride off the cusp of, you know, the cusp of Star Wars, and it did. So I loved it, and I loved Battlestar because it kept the sci-fi going. The chicks were smoking hot. Was adolescent boy, and cool ships and all that stuff. And I think it had an interesting um, storyline, if a little cheesy, but what wasn't cheesy in the late 70s? So it's the entertainment of the era. It was great. And yes, now if you watch it, people kind of go, oh, yuck, yuck, yuck. Look how dated and stupid and corny. Maybe. Um, and I hate remakes. I would not watch the remake. Another great Gen Con story for me was um, I forget his name, but the fellow who played Apollo and Glenn Larson were literally looking for money from fans to make this made for TV movie that they were making or trying to pitch. And they came up to me like, "Hey, what kind of money do you have? What kind of money can you get some? Can you Here's what we're doing." They were really neat, and they had a real passion for it. And Glenn Larson, you know, they didn't give me the budget. They made, he really talked about how it could be so much more, and so did uh, I can't remember his name, the guy who played Apollo. So anyway, so uh, I finally let myself drop on the whole hard ass I don't want to see remakes thing, and watched it, and it was the one of the greatest TV shows I've ever seen, especially greatest sci-fi TV show, the second one. And it was the raw, gritty thing that they wouldn't let him do in '78 because back then everybody had to be candy ass and uplifting and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know that I can choose one over the other. I think that they both are shining jewels based on their calendar date. Um, so, but I'm a big nostalgia fan. So I look at the original Battlestar, and I look at it through the eyes of a kid who was running to the TV to watch it when it came on after the football was over. And then I look at Battlestar, the modern one, and through an adult's eyes, and it's a grown up, mature, you know, awesome drama. So hard to make a choice between the two. If I was going to make a choice, if I was going to have to choose one or the over, I would take the original, but only because more babes and hotter. IMO. that that's how I started with wargaming. Is trying to make a movie. We got tired of just setting up soldiers and staring at them, and then we tried to add in the fireworks, and we got a neighbor come over, giving us that shit. So we decided, well, let's make some movies out of this stuff. Um, and then nobody was going to give us a camera because a handheld movie camera, in 1976 was thousands of dollars. So we tried to just act one out, even though we couldn't put it to film, and it didn't work real well. So that's when somebody that was a friend of my dad's that was visiting saw us, and us being me and three of my buddies, kind of bickering over what direction to go with this story. And he came back 2 days later and handed me some war game rules and said, "Why don't you guys just play this if you want to act something out?" And it was about, I don't know how many months. It was the same summer, if I remember correctly, that I went down into my uncle's basement and saw that he had all the D&D stuff because he worked with, not for, but with TSR, and started me on the D&D stuff too. So that summer was great. That's when I all got going on that. Yeah, I can't, like I say, I become extremely hostile just on the principle of remakes, and always kind of have been, but even more so now. But there's exceptions to every rule, and Battlestar Galactica is the exception to the rule. It, like I say, it's not better than the original, but it's its own thing, and it's really, really good. I highly recommend getting it. You won't be disappointed, I don't think. It's really great. Yeah, man, Face Man. I always remember the A Team, where he'd point at that silent. Hey, you look familiar. Yeah, man, that was awesome. Uh, there's another great thing about Gen Con. I never can stop talking about Gen Con because it was the greatest gaming show on earth, and you got to meet all those people. I had to stay in line and all that sort of stuff. So some of them I didn't anything more than, "Hey, can you sign my shit?" And then I had to leave. But some of them I got to hang out with a little bit, not hang out with like they were friends, but like Jimmy Doohan from Star Trek. He went into the bar, and on break, and just everybody started. It was a public bar. He didn't care. He loved to hang out with nerds. Some people hated that shit. They only did it because they needed the money. He didn't care. He loved it. So he went into the bar and we all just sat around and listened to him tell all sorts of stories about, oh man, it was great. Um, I did not watch The Expanse. No, no. Me and TV kind of gradually separated to the point where I don't watch any of it anymore. And there was a period of time when a lot of those sci-fi, like what was the other one that people I thought was so great? Even Stargate. I looked at Stargate and I thought this is a third-rate ripoff of a fairly decent sci-fi movie, and I didn't want to touch it. And it wasn't until I'm kind of like Mikey, the old Life serial guy. Nah, I don't want that shit. And I finally got talked into watching it one night, and then I watched the whole thing, and it was a lot better than I thought it was. But at the time, hey man, Stargate, you watch that? Nah, wouldn't do it. Um, a lot of those things were that way, but but I never did watch The Expanse. So, and now I don't watch TV at all. The last TV show I watched was that Andor from Star Wars, just because I wanted to see what they were going to do with it. But I've heard people talk about it. Um, a lot of people said it was great. Maybe I'll pick it up. So when I get some money, um, I watched Roswell for a hot minute, but that was one of those things where my wife was watching it and I didn't have any choice. And I would usually watch the TV she was watching because it was right next to me, but I was really just staring at my computer playing a video game or something, not really paying that much attention to it. Um, did that with a lot of stuff that she turned on. But uh, and me and her was the same way. She wasn't like I was a fanatic like about Star Wars. So me watching, she's like, I'm not watching Andor with you. I don't want to hear you dissect it like it's a fucking frog because you're going to be all hardcore about it. It'll bum me out. I just want to watch it, chill, and enjoy. It's okay if it's not that, if it's not perfect canon or whatever. So she wouldn't do it. But um, but I watched it and I absolutely did do that. And I concur. It, I didn't hate it. And it would have been interesting to see where it went. So, um, by that time, I had kind of given up on Star Wars, but I watched it because I I don't know why I got it into my head, but I kind of figured they'd never do that timeline, that portion. They'd never do it, and that was the part of the story that I was most interested in because I went to Star Wars the original release with and it had the crawl that was different than 2 years 2 years later, year and a half later, year later, whatever it was. They put it out again. They re-released it, and it was that one or the next one. Anyway, whatever. They at one point they re-released it. I think it was the one in support of the sequel, and they changed the crawl, and it went from now it said chapter 4. Didn't say that before. What the hell is this? And I want it. Well, where's 3? Why are we starting in the middle of a story? How come we're not starting at 1? What happened with 1? What happened with 2? And it talked about this battle and all that stuff. And I want to know about that. How did they even become the rebellion? I want to know all those stories. So when Andor said it might, lead into the beginning of the rebellion, I was very interested just to see what I could glean out of it. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't. I was sitting there going, I've got West End Game story about how it's all started, and that came from Lucas, and this isn't really it. At least it isn't yet. It had a couple of the plot points, but it was still a little bit dissimilar. So, but it wasn't that bad. No, I agree. I I didn't mind Solo until the end when they Darth Maul showed up, then I was really pissed off. I didn't like that at all. I didn't mind Rogue One, except for a couple of details. Um, I only saw about 10 minutes of the first sequel, the one that went the future stuff. I only watched a couple of scenes. I had a real bad experience with that. you want to hear you want to hear the I mean, this is, I don't know, some people, I don't even know if this find it amusing. But what I did is, I think that came out in 2015 or 2016. It was 2016, and I had a real bad year. One of the one of the worst years of civilian life I've ever had. Um, really bad. And all I had for Christmas was $200. Me and my wife. That's all we could do. We were. It was really bad. And so I said, "What are we going to do with this?" Now 200. That's when they say, "Well, it's only $200." Well, if it's all the money you've got, it's precious, right? So anyway, so we go and we sort of research all the ways, what we can do for Christmas. And I I see that there's going to be a movie marathon over a 30. It's going to be like a mini convention, a 36-hour movie marathon at a one of those multiplex movie theaters, and they're going to play all the Star Wars from Episode 1, and then at the end they're going to play the new Disney Star Wars. This is before Rogue One came out, but the two scenes I saw, I'm a huge Han Solo fan. Han Solo is my favorite of all of them. So I fell asleep during the movie because I was too old to be staying up for 36 hours. And I saw the scene where they kill Han Solo. It's a longer story. It's not even that great, but yeah, that was that was the thing. I was like, you know what, man, let's just not do this shit. It'd be one thing if they CGI'd him and made him look young and he did it or whatever, but he hated it. He signed a contract to do this stuff, and he didn't really want to do the rest of it. And he wanted out bad. He wanted them to kill him off in Jedi so he didn't have to come back. But they had plans. This isn't something this was all forced. I mean, the Disney sale probably wasn't, but they had plans. And so he was contractually obligated to do it, but he hated it. So I know he wasn't going to do anything they didn't have to do with a prequel, but that's the way I want to see it. The dude was okay. The story was okay. The Han Solo story till the end. It wasn't great. The whole thing. I'm sitting there, I'm going, I spent money, time. I got really interested in the stories from back then. Solo's origin story is in novels from the 80s, the early 80s. Why not just do those? And instead of but they have to reinvent the wheel and do all this other dumb shit with it. So all they did is they just kind of menu, like a la carte, picked names from existing stuff and then rearranged it. And they probably thought they were real creative doing that, but I thought it sucked. It made me mad. It wasn't that bad of a story, but it wasn't the real stories in the novels, in my opinion. So, but yeah, anyway, I kind of had a little bit of a scene watching when they killed Solo. See, when when Disney bought or when Lucas sold it to Disney, I was fucking furious. And I'm like, this is before the word woke. And I knew I'm like, they're going to candy ass it. They're going to make it for 10-year-olds. They're going to fucking destroy this thing. And And when they said they were going to make more movies, I go, oh, Jesus Christ. So I didn't watch anything about them. I didn't watch any of it. I had Insider magazines. I canceled all of it. I didn't want to know. Dead to me. Just, I wanted to stop in 1986 and be done. And so I stayed away from everything that was going to hint towards what this stuff would be. So in my mind, I got this dumb idea that they were just, because I knew or Harrison Ford wanted out, that they were going to write him out and they were just going to, I didn't know they were going to treat my Star Wars like it was some evil piece of shit. I figured they'd write him out gracefully. He'd either go down swinging or him and Chewie would retire to some, with all their smuggler money. And instead, I wake up after going through this movie marathon to some punk weirdo with a weird looking lightsaber just punking out. There's not even a fight. He punked my guy, ran him through, and then on top of it, picked him up and threw him over the ledge. And I took that shit a little too personally. And to me, it was like all the young kids and Disney going, here's your Star Wars, old man. Fuck you. Throw it in the trash, And I walked out pissed. Kind of caused a big scene. Everybody had to get out of the way. Oh God, I was infuriated because I had spent the only $200 I had. I had to say, I don't want to get into all the details, but it was after this Christmas was over, the horrible year that I had already had, I was potentially facing a much worse situation. So this was not only Christmas, it was my little reprieve before I really had to take on some seriously ugly shit. And I thought, oh, Star Wars will be my Kelgon. It'll make me feel better to go see Star Wars. And after the end of not getting my values worth of money out of the thing, because I fell asleep through some of the better movies, at the end of it, they take my guy, they punk him, and they throw him over the shoulder. Oh, Jesus. I was so fucking mad. Oh, God. Yeah, I didn't spend a minute watching that. I was shocked. By the time Solo came out and was done, Andor was it. I'm like, I'm cutting it off at Andor. I'll watch Andor just to see if they touch on the kind of thing I want to see at the, as far as the beginning of the rebellion. But after that, I'm tapping out. I didn't want to watch any of that. I didn't really want to go to Solo, but my wife really wanted to go. My wife at the time. So I did, just to humor her. And I didn't see Rogue One for years. A buddy of mine goes, I know why you hate it. I totally agree with you, but you're doing yourself a major disservice not seeing Rogue One. And I didn't want any part of it. And I finally, just like everything else, I go, no. And I finally ease off. And it was okay. But there was story plot points that pissed me off. Yeah. It was okay, but like things that if like really hardcore nerd shit made me mad. The prequels weren't. I wasn't happy with a lot of that. That's why people don't even want to talk to me about it anymore, because all I can do is just be very critical of it. But I'm critical of it because I'm really into it. It's just kind of the way geeks are. But a lot of people go, oh, Jesus, what a drag. I don't want to hear him tear it apart. But I didn't. The prequel thing didn't make me happy either. It was good. And it was certainly, in my opinion, closer to what Star Wars was supposed to be and was supposed to look like in that time frame than I expected. There were major inconsistencies that that bug me, but I'm a little aspy that way. Um, but they didn't rape the canon as bad, so yeah. To me, it's the best Disney Star Wars. And in my opinion, Disney Star Wars kind of isn't Star Wars. I'm kind of one of those hardcore people about it, but Rogue One was okay. There was parts of Solo that were okay. They I I didn't mind it at all, even though it wasn't the story I wanted to see, except for a couple of parts. And I thought, okay, all in all, that's all right. I can rate that an 8 out of 10 as far as Star Wars. And then at the end, they pull Darth Maul out, and you fuckers, they just drop a big deuce on it at the end and screw it all up. Um, yeah, I didn't set, like I said, I saw the beginning of the first number 7 where they're flaming some village or whatever, and then I fell asleep. And I got woken up by my wife because I was snoring so loud it was disturbing people. And that's when I saw Solo get run through by that lightsaber, and I blew my stack and walked out. And the funny thing about walking out so pissed off, I mean, it's not funny that there's people shooting shit up, but there was one of those theater shootings like a week before this happened. So the theater had a lot of police presence, and I was fucking mad. And I came out there stomping and when I get mad looking, I gotta look to my. So I had realized I better fucking chill out, or these cops will think I'm the next one pulling a gun, smoking a cigarette, trying to calm down. Yeah, yeah. Um, Family Guy Star Wars is pretty good. So there's a people are the Star Wars thing. People give me a lot of grief about being too hardcore on Star Wars, but I ain't shit. There's people that like I watched a documentary called The People vs. George Lucas, and I highly recommend it. But I know hardcore Star Wars guys that get like they find it they're upset by it for a variety of weird reasons because they're so kind of aspy or whatever about stuff. But I thought it told the story pretty well. Um, the People versus George Lucas. So uh, you check that out if you can. But I don't mind parody uh, to a degree. I'm not so anal that I get mad if people mock it, as long as it's you know amusing. Uh, but Disney didn't just Disney just smeared poop all over it. I I don't do it often, but I was out of that seat faster than I realized I was standing up. I was so upset about that treatment of him. It was, and you know what? It wasn't even that. It was, I mean, it didn't make me happy. But what really bummed me out was here's a finale to an experience that was supposed to be positive and alleviate me from an extreme amount of stress. And instead of the cherry on top, here's your favorite character out of the whole franchise getting punk bitched in front of your face because we won't even nod to your Star Wars in a positive light. We're going to kill it and kill it cheap because, I like I said, I just took it too personally. And some of it was my life's, just the personal things around me. I let it affect me. But I was pissed. It was really weird. That whole con experience was strange because I was one of the few people that was old enough to. I was like everybody else was younger than me, of course, and uh, there was one kid that was there with her kid, and she was like, "I was there when Phantom Menace came out. I remember, And I'm like, that's all you weren't even alive when the original Star Wars came out, and you've got a kid. And now the kid's looking at me like I'm some fucking like, "Were you there? Did you see the first one?" I go, "I saw the first one the first night it was ever, in 1977." And they looked at me like, "How old are you?" Jesus Christ. So, oh god, that was funny. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was on some bad, a lot of, but uh, blotter acid, and I went to Hunt for Red October, and I didn't do real well when the initial they had the sub overhead. That didn't do me good. I made it, but I was thinking hard about it. And the other one was Batman, the Nicholson Batman. I got I got stoned on a level that I rarely have been stoned. I don't know what was in that shit, but the person next to me was talking, and all I heard was Charlie Brown's parents. It just wasn't even English. I was so fucked up, and I didn't want to be in a crowd of people, even though they were silent and I couldn't see them. I knew I like to be alone when I get too much. And it was a little bit of a battle to stay seated throughout that movie. Great movie, but I wanted to go. I kind of get paranoid. Um, but yeah, that was. But the Red October thing, I was okay after that, but the the openers got me. Yeah, yeah, we went, and it was packed. It was a Saturday night, and it was the hot movie and all that, and I was way too high to be in that. Oh wow! So, but yeah, Hunt for October was a great flick, but that coming overhead, that one got me with the acid. Don't do that shit anymore. I'm too old, but yeah. Um, see all that, and there's you could like, well, there were games made for Hunt for October. You could do all that. So of course there's DC RPG, so you can do the Batman. My opinion, Nicholson and Keaton are the best movie Batman, you know, in my opinion. I love those. I love that shit. Really? See, I didn't. I couple of times. I went back when I had a level head just so I could make sure that I. But I think that was about it. I don't do a lot of repeat viewing. I probably did a lot more as a kid, just because you go to hang out with your friends. You don't really care what's on the screen. Um, but certainly without even having to think through it, Star Wars is the movie I've seen the most on a big screen, unquestionably. I think I saw ET a lot of times. I don't know how many, but I'm sure I saw it several times, given that it was so popular and all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably just to hang out with people and shit like that. I remember jumping back and forth between. They re-released Fantasia when ET was it ET or Time Bandits, one of the two. That's several years apart, but there was one of them where they re-released Fantasia for some anniversary, and we kind of flipped back and forth to two theaters. I think it was Time Bandits, and I'd seen that a couple of times. Um, I liked it, but the guy I was with, I don't. He didn't. He thought it was boring, so we went over and with strep. Oh, yikes! Oh wait, yeah. I never watched. See, here's another weird thing. Have you? Is there ever a movie that you didn't watch at home after? Like I never watched ET in a house. I've only seen E.T. in a theater. I never put in the VHS tape to watch it again or anything like that. Nope. Always in a theater. Uh, Star Wars. Shit, I played that till I had to replace the tape, but not ET for whatever reason. Um, I mean Meryl Streep. I remember her in Batman. She was in what? I was never a huge comic book guy, but I did. Oh, Rocky Horror. Yeah, I went to Rocky Horror. Did the shit with the throwing the rice and the whole all that crap. That was we always did that drunk. You know, stumble out of a bar. That was one that only played after midnight. You know, they always had the midnight showing Rocky Horror. We'd be pretty liquored up by the time we got there. You ever do the thing where you put the rubber on the cucumber with the chick holding it for the that was a bit they would do at the beginning, at least around us. They would pick uh, six women and six uh, dudes, and you'd have to come up on the stage, and uh, she would hold a cucumber at her crotch, and you had to put a rubber on the cucumber with reach around. It's just part of the thing. Um, so yeah, we used to do that. That was a big party thing. There was but I was never a big. I mean, I like Batman. I like Spider Man, Superman. I saw those movies. Well, the Spider Man movie was more like a TV thing back then, but I watched it. Um, I liked Christopher Reeve Superman movies. At least the first two or three, they started to get stupid. I like Richard Pryor, but not that much. Um, but one and two were excellent. So, um, yep, those were good flicks. So, I got to meet him as well. The guy who played Zod. And the reason I got to meet him is he is uh, a big time retro video game fan. Loves old uh, 70s and 80s arcade and video computer system games like Atari 2600 and television, ColecoVision. He loves 8-bit games. And he goes to a lot of 8-bit game conventions and stuff. And I got to meet him at one. So that was cool. Oh yeah, Jack Nicholson. There's a lot of the golf club story is the one I always heard a lot of, but there was more of them. But that one was the one that seemed to get the most press. Oh, you're talking about how they played the movie. Oh yeah, I wasn't. I'm not a noir person or anything like that. I never got into that whole 30s thing, that kind of deal. I know I have some people who are big noir RPG people, and that was never my bag. I don't know much about that sort of stuff. So I never watched that. Watched L.A. Confidential. He loved that movie, and I never. That kind of bored me. That stuff. I never got into Cthulhu. I remember when it first came out, and they had the Cthulhu for President stuff and all that, and I just that didn't really. I never really found that interesting personally. Um, yeah, not my cup of tea personally, but everybody's got their tastes. That wasn't. But I never did Cthulhu or noir. So I never was into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as the old RPG game either. That never really. I remember when that first came out, and there was a lot of people hooting and hollering about it, and I never really found it. But it wasn't even so much that I didn't like the premise; it was that I was swimming in the. You can only buy so much, I was already playing a ton of stuff, and I already had a glutton of RPGs, and it just it didn't attract me enough to go spend more money on something I probably wasn't going to use to begin with. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That stuff. Never. I was never into that. I watched a few minutes of him playing that with the people, and I wouldn't mind playing one, but I'm. It doesn't interest me as such that I would go and buy the material and get into it that way. I mean, I'd sit down and play one, sure, especially one like he's doing, where it's set in an era that 1978. Yeah, that I do that, but everybody's got their thing. I'll do military RPGs, and most people wouldn't do that. They go, "What? Yeah, World War II? No." I can barely get anybody to do that. I got my co-host to play one. She's a girl. She did it. She loved it. She thought it was excellent. Um, but I doubt I could get another person to do it. um, so used to do it. Used to play fastest behind enemy lines. I used to play the Palladium. Everybody goes, I hated that system. I go, I liked it. The Palladium recon system. I used to play that with a bunch of people, guys that like to play the Vietnam stuff. We were playing that when Tour of Duty. It's an old '80s TV show was out, and we kind of got in. So we were playing Nam. I like the military RPGs, but so. Played Dawn Patrol with Mike Carr. That was his game. That was kind of a military RPG. Some people, not much. Well, you got to play a campaign. Then it becomes an RPG. Um, yeah, right. Indiana Jones. I could make I could do that era if it was Indiana Jones because I like the movies. That seems like an Indiana Jones trope, and I could probably go that route with it. But um, that was another one I never got into as far as an RPG. There was a Indiana Jones RPG, but it's just because I just didn't have enough people that wanted to play, and I just already had a ton of stuff. But and it didn't last long. Something about the licensing or whatever. Lucas and licensing, he's he's a little bit nutso with that shit. I talked to people in at WotC that were into licensing, and they said he's a real pain in the ass um, dealing with that shit. I called him up a couple of times, not obviously not Lucas himself, but I called up Lucas, and the company to ask about a couple of things, and it start fucking yelling at me and stuff. What a bunch of dicks. You don't need to start yelling. I said, what? That's a, they give you this, how many people like you call up every day? Okay. No, I don't. Because I'm just me asking you a simple question. So, but yeah, they're real assholes about that sort of stuff. Aces, the only two I know or play are Blue Max from GDW and Dawn Patrol from TSR. I don't I don't play as far as RPGs. I don't play anything modern. I don't. Uh, the West End game Star Wars is the newest thing because they kept printing stuff into the 90s. But I won't. I don't play anything new. That's it. I play like Star Trek. I play FASA, Star Trek from the 80s. I love FASA, West End Games, TSR, GDW. So some independent stuff from the 80s and 70s, but nothing else. So that's all. I won't touch anything new. For a couple of reasons. I don't like modern rules that much, and I don't have money at all. Um, but I have played a dogfight, a World War One dogfight flip game. I don't think it was that one though. Uh, I also played the Star Wars Tie Fighter dogfight flip game. They had books for X-wing and Tie Fighter interceptors and stuff like that. That was great. Well, that's why I'm making my own. Everybody keeps talking about the hero thing, but for everybody that says play the hero thing, there's somebody who goes that's too complicated, and I just got tired of. I I played West End games. Oh, Mike, yeah. All right, man. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out. Just I'll keep you appraised of the situation. Let me know, Michael, if you've got some time and what days are good. If you want to get up on camera and talk with me, that would be great. We can work that out. Whatever schedule works for you. See you soon. Um, yeah, a lot of people hit me up with the heroes thing. I don't have any of that material. I remember it. I mean, as far as seeing it, and all that. But I always hear people go, I don't know. I think maybe people say that because they just assume if it comes from the 80s, it must be complicated and hard to play. It's almost like a default thing. Oh, it's that old, it must suck. I don't know. But I made my own. So, and I'm trying to promote that now. In fact, if I get more people to play, might get people to play Star Wars. Probably not, but a couple of people say, I want to, but I don't know if they will. But if they do, I'm almost tempted to say, why don't you stop trying to chase down West End game stuff and let's just try mine. I want to just play mine from now on. I'm to the point where I don't want to have to keep switching around systems. I can't remember that shit anymore. Burned too many brain cells. Used to drink a lot. I just don't remember that stuff. Having to switch all around all the time. Plus, most of it's I got in a storage that I can't get at often. Two towns over. So, but yeah, I've heard people talk about that. So, but they say complex about everything. Everything's complicated. Jesus. I was playing West End games, Star Wars, having a lot of fun. Everybody was enjoying it. I wanted to have one battle where you had to lay out the miniatures, and I got all of that bullshit talk. Oh, this you better do it this way because if you do it that way, it'll take 2 weeks to play 2 minutes. And it was like you just ruined all the fun for me. It just sucked all the life out of the game. I didn't even want to run it after that. It was just like, I gotta hear all this crap. played it in 1991, and nobody was saying that shit when they were playing it. They all bought it and had fun. Same thing with with BattleTech. All these people now, well, BattleTech's hard to play, and you got to fill in those little. Watch. I never heard that from people in 1984. They walked out of a game store after playing around a BattleTech going, yeah, I blew that fucking Thunderbolt's leg off. It was awesome. What changed? Yeah. Yeah, everybody's got their own thing, and that's why I wasn't going to make mine. And then everybody goes, why not? Everybody makes one. Why shouldn't you make yours? Okay. So I got some money from somebody. He says, go ahead, print it out. I want a copy, and he's been promoting it. So now I'm gonna. That's probably why nobody plays. They all want to play what they want to play, and everybody's got their favorite thing that they work with, and so same thing with me. I don't want to switch around anymore. But yeah, I like. Some people say, well, you can't. How do they put it? It takes different rule mechanics to, like the certain mechanics only work with certain genres. They say I've never seen anything that lends me to have that thought process, but that's why they go. Uh, I don't like generic systems. They're they're a jack of all trades, but an expert in none, or however that phrase goes. And I go, okay, but yeah, yeah. I made it for a couple of reasons. There was a couple of things that I kept hearing that about certain mechanics that were bad, and I said, I played just like I was just saying about BattleTech. I played that shit in 1984. I didn't have half the education I have now at that age. Had no problem playing it. Didn't think about it as being complicated. Had fun while I was doing it. What the hell? So there's a couple of mechanics in my game where people are always poo pooing them. I go, why? Oh, it's bullshit. I played with those and they work great. So I want to put them in there and put them in the product. And I thought, hell, no one's going to buy the damn thing. And then I got thinking, by the time the guy who got me into wargaming, by the time he reached the age I'm at now, I should say, he was of the same mind. He goes, I threw all that stuff to the side. I just have a couple of books for wargame, a couple of rule sets, one for tactical and one for bigger, strategic. I don't want to have to keep remembering all this shit from all these different books, all these different products and stuff. And I'm the same way. So I just want mine, and keeps it simple and easy. I don't have to. Oh, that's right. I was thinking of that system. You have all those conversations and mistakes and shit like that. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're all set up. Yeah. Yep. Okie dokie. 7 p.m. We'll see you. I think everybody's playing, so it'll be great. Do 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 do. Why the hell? So, anybody? Oh, so anybody else? Ace of Aces, huh? Yeah. I remember Ace of Aces on Sega Genesis. I've never heard of this one. I remember playing the flipbook game, but I don't think this is the one. I might try it if it looks Italian. What year is this from? Oh, that's a. So, folks, what else got going on? Talked movies. I don't know much about sports. To talk some RPG stuff, wargaming, got that. Old video games, love that. Uh, oh, here we go. Just checking that Ace of Aces out. Let's see, yeah. Oh, 1980. Okay. I don't remember that one at all. I only had GDW and TSR, but I'll give that a look. Here's somebody's post to the old Robin Hood from Avalon Hill. That's another one of my personal favorites. Avalon Hill. Love it. Well, all right. Well, long we've been going almost 2 hours. That ought to do for now. Hopefully, don't forget to like and subscribe. Um, maybe next time we'll actually talk about games or actually do a game or something like that instead of just chatting. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but shit. Maybe we can try one now. I'll do that later. Maybe I'll come back later and actually play a game. All right, folks. This is enough for now. Thanks. Bye.